Hey, good afternoon. What's up? My name is Dr. Brian. This is a quick tutorial on where to find the buttons that we'll be using during today's session. The Cisco WebEx system that we will be using today offers us the opportunity to really participate within the class. And I'm going to be showing you some of the adjustments that you might want to make or be familiar with prior to the class start. All right? So let me walk you through it. First thing you're going to be looking for is making sure that your audio settings and your webcam is on before we begin. Now, as far as the audio settings, the first thing you're going to want to do is go up to the audio section in the top left-hand corner. You'll want to do the speaker microphone audio test and make sure that your speakers and your microphone are set to the right input and output. So you might be using a headphone. In this case, I have a Duet USB and an element organizer. I'll be using the built-in output for this case. You could also test it, of course, and it'll test your sound. You also want to make sure it's using the proper mic. The big mistake that we usually see is a doctor is using the mic that's built into their laptop, and usually that's a fairly weak mic. So you want to make sure you're using the right mic. That way we can all hear you better. All right? So make sure you check your audio. Next thing, you will have a webcam button. During class, it's important for your webcam button to be on because that's a big part of the participation. Okay? So you'll just go to the right-hand corner where all your names are, and next to your name, you're going to see a little button that looks like a camera. You want to make sure it's clicked to green. So I'm going to click this off, and that might be what you look like now. And we're going to click it back on. Make sure your cameras are on. All right? So next thing you're going to want to do is set your screen size. We're all using different screens, some 27-inch, some 15-inch. In the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to see an option with percentages. Ideally, you're going to want to choose the Fit to Viewer option. It's the one that usually works the best with everybody's computer. So choose Fit to Viewer. And the next thing you're going to want to do as far as setting your screen size, you're going to want to adjust all your windows. Resizing the windows is simple. You just want to put your cursor right on the edge between the presentation and where your names are, and it'll allow you to make it wider. It'll allow you to make the names more narrow. You're going to want to push that all the way to the right. That's the ideal place to have it. Why? It makes sense to see more of the presentation board than anything else. Okay? So push that as wide as you can. If the chat is super active, you can always make the chat size bigger or smaller as you need it. Okay? Normally, you're going to want at least about that much length, in case, especially if you have a classroom full of doctors chatting. Okay? Next adjustment you're going to want to make is the chat button and the chat box. Ideally, you want this to send to all participants. That way, everybody can see what you're typing. One of the things we see a lot of is somebody will type a private message and then others will respond, or I'll respond, and nobody will know what you're talking about. So make sure that's set to that. Next button you're going to want to use. And these are really big buttons to use within the lecture. And they're the raise hand, check button, X button, and emoticon button. We'll talk about more how they are used during the session later on in actually the live class when I'm speaking to all of you live. But just so you know where to find them, they're right below all your names. And you'll see a raise hand button, a check button, an X button, and a happy face button. All right? You'll notice that you're all muted. And you're muted essentially so that if somebody wants to talk, you're not hearing background noise from everybody else's mics. So if you raise your hand, I'll call on you, and you can say whatever you want to say or ask whatever you want to ask. The check button and the X button, that's a quick way of you saying you agree or disagree, yes or no. So I could ask the class, agree or disagree, check if yes, X if no. Do you believe you should waive your right to see the LOR when it comes to application time? Okay, and that's a quick way for you to do check if yes, X if no. A nice way to actually kind of show what your feelings are during class is to use the emoticon buttons. And there's the happy face button if in case somebody says something funny. There's the clap button in case somebody says something brilliant. So do try to use that if you can. The next button that I'm going to show you is the hardest button to find. It's the one where most people will struggle to find it at first, but once you know where it is, you know where it is. Okay? It's the personal arrow button. And if you go to the top left-hand corner of the screen and you click on this button, it's a little button that is of an arrow pointing to the right. You click on it once and you click anywhere on the screen and it'll put up an arrow with your name on it. And this is especially useful if we're going over subject matter within the class. And, you know, I could ask a question like the one I just asked. Should you waive your LOR if you get your LOR in July? And I could put a yes on the screen and I could put a no on the screen. You simply just need to put your arrow next to what you believe the correct answer is. That way I know what everybody's feeling on each of the answers, then we can address everybody's concerns. Okay? So that's the arrow button. Next thing I'm going to show you is the View All Cameras button. Now, as I'm doing this little tutorial, there's nobody in the classroom, so I won't really need to use it because I'm talking to myself. But there will be other doctors in your classroom, and in the right-hand corner, wherever your video button is, there'll be a little button within that box. And if you click on that button once, it's going to open up everybody's cameras, and it'll allow you to scroll through everybody's cameras. All right? Once you get into this screen, the first thing you're going to want to do is not look at everybody's cameras first, but you're going to want to go to the top part of the screen. Put your arrow up there. It'll put up down an option box, and you're going to want to open up your participants box and open up your chat box. And the reason for that is if we happen to be talking about a subject and you want to participate, you won't be able to unless you open up those boxes. So make sure that you do that. You're going to have to resize those boxes, obviously. To get back to the regular screen, you could either hit return up here or exit full screen over here to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit return. And that is essentially the buttons you're going to be using during the session, during actually every session you're in with me. So be aware of where they are. Again, you're going to want to adjust your screen in the bottom left-hand corner. You're going to have the participation buttons here right below all your names. You'll have that arrow button that everybody has trouble finding. And you are, at some point, going to want to switch back and forth between the group webcam buttons and then the presentation button, depending on what I'm doing during the session. So I hope this is helpful to you, and hopefully we are going to have a productive class today. Peace out. See you in a few minutes.